Is this runway casting for a grumpy brand or a smiley brand?
So it's a grumpy brand, yeah?
Congratulations! Show me that Balenciaga look. Suddenly I'm dressed in something way less expensive. It's H&M.
Anyone notice how the rich getting what they deserve was a running theme in many movies this year? You had The Menu, you had Triangle of Sadness, you had other films I didn't look up to make this joke work. The bottom line is, the rich suck, and they need to be taken down a peg. Or 10, because they're fucking rich. Thus, my penultimate review, Triangle of Sadness.
I have one joke, eh? Do you know how to tell a communist? It's someone who reads Marx and Lenin. And do you know how to tell an anti-communist? It's someone who understands Marx and Lenin.
Triangle of Sadness was announced back in 2017 after the director Ruben Ostlund's previous film, The Square, had won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. It took some time to get everything set up, but filming began in 2020, where it was quickly halted due to the pandemic. In June of that same year, production resumed, only to close back up on July 3rd. Go figure, a few months weren't enough to completely eradicate the disease. Almost as if the message of the movie is lost on the crew. Anyway, everything concluded in November, and post-production ended up taking 22 months to complete. Not only that, but there have been reports that Ruben would go on to shoot as many as 23 takes per scene. Yeah, that's definitely got my Triangle of Sadness worked up. Which, if you don't know, is that space between your eyebrows that scrunches up when you glare. So, there you go.
Basically, our best-selling product is the hand grenade.
Sorry, the what?
The hand grenade, dear.
The story here actually plays out very interestingly, as the first third of the film almost plays as a completely different movie to the second third, and the last third continues in that style with another change. If there's one part you may end up not liking, that's okay, because there's another one coming right up that might change things to be more your style. Overall though, the plot revolves around the rich and just how ridiculous they can be in their world or with their requests. How oblivious they may be to the workings of the world around them. And in the third half, how the power dynamic can easily shift and others can fall to that same madness. It's actually quite a journey when all is said and done. The first part definitely sets things up in a way that makes you understand the madness of the journey we're about to embark on. This section focuses more on Harris Dickinson and the late Chirabi Dean's character and their relationship with one another. It's a very strong start that gets you ready for what's to come next. The meat and potatoes is definitely in its second part, where we have all these rich people on a yacht and the craziness that results from all of their selfish desires. I would say if you're not a fan of the first part, stick with it until this section, because this is definitely the strongest the movie has to offer. Unfortunately, then we have the last third, which is excruciatingly long and really sours the experience for me. That's not to say there aren't strong moments in that third part. This is where Dolly De Leon gets her chance to shine. But we spend too much time in a situation that is painfully obvious what it's trying to say, and ends it on a very confusing note. Look, I'm all for ambiguity in a movie and its ending, but this felt like ambiguity for ambiguity's sake. Is this the director's own selfish desire? Are we being meta for the story? Because if that's the case, it sucks. Regardless, I like the first two acts enough to not let it completely ruin my experience of the film. Though, it is a shame the weakest is at the end, since ending is very important to me. And you may think otherwise. You may think the first act is the bore and the third is the better of the two. You'd be wrong, but that's fine. Yeah, you see what I'm doing there? Yeah. I can't say the film does anything extraordinary in terms of cinematography or editing or production design. It does what it needs to, and that's really about it. I mean, I do like how the boat scenes are handled, and if there is any justification needed for Ruben's director nomination, it's in that second part, but everything else is fine. If we are talking about the movie's strengths, it's in its writing. The movie is generally funny at points. Even if the jokes don't make you laugh out loud, there is humorous things in it that'll make you, at the very least, find it amusing. It's more of the situation and watching these characters do their thing. Speaking of the characters, the performances behind them all are great, especially the previously mentioned Dale de Leon, who absolutely steals the show in that third part and is the only reason I didn't completely lose my mind during that portion. The others are great here too, each personifying the worst of their world, but a lot of them are still strangely likable in a way. Like, I personally really liked that lonely guy who you meet at the bar, and yes, he's not a good person, but you still find some sort of sympathy towards him. I don't know. If the movie can get me to even slightly like some of these assholes, it's gotta be doing something right.
Oh. Winston. Look.
I'm kind of mixed on Triangle of Sadness. On the one hand, its strong elements are really strong, and they'll definitely stick with you. On the other hand, that goddamn last third is so boring. And I hope I'm overstating it, so when you do go see it, it doesn't end up being as bad as I made it out to be. So yes, on that end, I do hope you go see it. Triangle of Sadness gets a 3.5 out of 5 with the recommendation to rent it. It's definitely not for everyone, but I would still give it a chance. If anything, that puking scene alone is well worth the watch itself. I think out of all the films that were nominated for Best Picture this year, Triangle of Sadness is the one that gets closest to being that pretentious movie that they like to pick every year. You know, that type of movie that thinks it's saying something astounding or revolutionary, and the critics love it, and then you go see it and you're like, the hell? Yeah, you would think that Tar would actually fill that role, but from what I can see, general audiences are actually liking Tar. So yeah, Triangle of Sadness, you win by default. And that's not to say it's fully pretentious, just that it's the closest that I feel to it. So anyways, and then there was one final review left. Ladies and gentlemen, stick with me. Come back tomorrow for that final one. Until then, stay safe out there and have a good one.